Hi everyone, and welcome to another day for Cosplay Club. Today we are making bracers. So what's a bracer? It's an armband that goes around your arm. So what you need will be Mod Podge. You will have 2 sheets of craft foam, just like that. Now mine are already pre-cut. 1 zipper. Your first step is to sketch out an example of what you want your bracer to look like. Make sure to include how many layers you have and number them so that you know what layer is going to go on which layer. Basically for the craft foam. So now step 1, you're going to measure your main craft foam around your arm and then cut off any excess. And what it's supposed to do is fit tightly around your arm because then we're going to add the zipper later. Next, we are going to cut out our second layer for our bracer. As you can see, that's our number 2 on our diagram that we drew out. So make sure it fits around your arm. It doesn't need to fit all the way because it's going to layer on top of the first one. Next, measure 2 centimeters from on your first layer and 1 centimeter lines on your second layer. This will give us space, as you can see right here, for where everything's going to be arranged. My next step, as you can see here, I measured a 1/2 centimeter strips, so those will line up against the edge of my main piece. So those are going to be our borders. These 2 items, the scissors and the hot glue, you are definitely going to need, but they're not included in your materials kit because of danger reasons. So my next step, as you can see, I am gluing my strips onto the edge so they look like a frame on my main bracer piece. Please remember, hot glue is hot, so be very careful when you are gluing and putting your strips onto your craft foam because you will hurt yourself. So please be very careful while doing this. Now we are finished. This is what it should look like after you put your strips down on your edge so it looks like a border. Next is our second piece. This is again our second layer. It's just the bigger part of the second layer. So I'm gonna hot glue that and the inside of the line box that I drew out with our 2 centimeter lines. And we're done. So this is what your second layers, once they're all done, this is what it should look like. Now on the template, as you can see, finished my second piece. Now we're on the third layer. So again, doing the same thing I did on our second layer. I'm just arranging my third layer pieces and hot gluing them down. Just basically just eyeballing it along the border of the 1 centimeter lines that I drew. Now that we have all our layers done, should be the finished product of what it should look like or similar to whatever you drawn out. Next is our Mod Podge. Now you already have a container in your materials packet. What you're going to do is add a little bit of water to that because you want it to be a little bit thinner than what you have there. So next we are going to take our paintbrush that you again have in your materials packet and paint it directly on your craft foam. This is a primer for when you paint because you never want to put paint directly on craft foam because then it's going to cause it to crack. So after you paint a thin layer first, wait till it dries, then put another coat, wait till it dries, put another coat. Basically just let it dry. Let it dry completely. This is what it should look like once it's completely dry and you put on at least 3 or 4 coats. It looks a little bit shiny, and it should be a little bit stiffer too. So now we are ready to paint. Now with our paint, I just got generic Walmart paint. As you can see, it's just, make sure it's acrylic paint. Don't do oil, don't do pastel, make sure it's acrylic. Next tip, make sure you're using a dry brush. It's gonna make your Mod Podge melt if you add water to the brush. So make sure when you're painting, it's dry. So you're just gonna put a first coat on. This is just your generic basic color. Once it dries, put a second coat on. So that's what it should look like once your first coat is finished. Of course, it doesn't look completely even. That's why you're gonna let it dry and then put on a second coat. This is our base color, and later we're going to add details so our bracer looks a little bit more realistic. So you're going to paint. As you can see right there, there's some yellow showing through the gray, but that's fine because that's again my first coat. I'm going to let it dry and then I'm going to paint a second coat. Make sure these are thin layers because you don't want to just over paint and put globs of paint on your craft foam. Again, let it dry. I cannot stress this enough. Just let it dry. Don't worry about just painting it straight on. So our third layer is going to be a light gray. As you saw, I mixed the regular gray with white. That makes a lighter gray. So this is just to give a contrast to the grayness of our bracer. Last part is our details. So for the detail part, I basically just got a brush. Just make sure my brush didn't have any more black on it. And I'm just dabbing the color layers on, mixing between light and dark. And again, my brush is dry. So I'm just going in a circular motion, just dabbing. Like girls, you know how to put on makeup. Basically just do the same thing where you're just dabbing in a circular motion, or you're just brushing in a circular motion, adding color. So the inside layer is the inside of your third layer. Well, where you want shiny, it's going to be white, because usually for worn out metal, the middle part is going to be the most worn and the most shiny. So as you can see, I just added some white and added highlights. So next are shadows. For shadows, as you can see, the tip of my brush is the only part that has some black, and I'm just using the tip of my brush and putting black straight up against the corner of where the third layer and the second layer meet, and then I'm blending it out starting from the middle and going toward that corner. So our darkest part is going to be in the corner where layer 3 and layer 2 meet. That is what it's going to look like. The middle of that, where they meet, the middle where you see like the edges are, that's going to be the lightest part. So this is what it looks like with a complete process. I hope I explained that right. I'm sorry. So our final step in this whole process, I know it's been long, is adding the zipper, which is the easiest part because you're just gonna hot glue the zipper straight on. Make sure the zipper is on like the arm part of where you're gonna wear your bracer, because to get the bracer off, you want to unzip from your wrist because that's the smallest part. If you unzip from your arm, you're not going to be able to get your wrist out. So I hope I explained this correctly. I know it's difficult and I hope the video helps. But as you can see, I'm just hot gluing the zipper on, making sure it's secure. And again, let it dry. Do not be impatient. Like, this requires a lot of patience and time to do. And as you can see, I can unzip it and I can zip it back. That is what your final product should look like. You should be able to have it wrap around your arm, and you also should be able to unzip it and zip it back. Make sure the end of the zipper is on the arm and not on the wrist, because you want to be able to get out of this. Alright, and that's basically what your arm bracer looks like. Hopefully this video was helpful. Thank you for coming, and I hope to see you guys next week.